So it's now time to press pause once again and attempt the following questions. That is, solve the system of equations y equals negative x squared plus 3x plus 18 and y equals 4x plus 22, and then illustrate the solution using a sketch graph. Now, like always, remember to press play when you're done so you can check your solutions against mine. Alright, so welcome back now. What I need to do is just scroll down a bit so we can fit all of our workings in down here, and let's get stuck straight into it. So as you can see, the very first step I did was I wrote out both equations. There's the quadratic equation and the linear equation that you can see here, and I've labelled them numbers 1 and number 2. Now the reason for this is because we want to use simultaneous equations in order to be able to solve and see whereabouts they cross each other. So I've got y equals negative x squared plus 3x plus 18 and y equals 4x plus 22. Now as you can see in both cases I've got the y on its own. So that means I can use the substitution method by just putting this 4x plus 22 up here and making them both equal to each other. Because of course where they cross over they're equal to each other. So I've got 4x plus 22 is equal to negative x squared plus 3x plus 18. What I do now is I rearrange and take 4x and take 22 off both sides, take 4x and take 22. These 4x's will cancel out and the 22's will cancel out, leaving us with 0 here, and that leaves me with negative x squared plus 3x minus 4x, as you can see here, plus 18 minus 22. I then go through and combine like terms, so I've got 3x minus 4x is negative x, and 18 minus 22 is negative 4. There we go, that's the first couple of steps done. The next step is to check to see how many solutions exist, that is how many times the linear equation and the quadratic equation intersect. So to do that I need to substitute in this new equation, this new quadratic thing here, into the discriminant formula. So I've got my discriminant is equal to b squared minus 4ac. Let's go through and label my a, b and my c now. So my a is equal to negative 1, my b is also equal to negative 1, and my c is equal to negative 4. So substituting that in now, so I've got b squared, so negative 1 squared, minus 4 times a being negative 1, times c being negative 4. Now of course b squared, negative 1 squared is equal to 1, minus 4 times negative 1, so that's positive 4 times negative 4 is negative 16, and 1 minus 16 is equal to negative 15. Now because our discriminant is negative, there are no solutions that exist. So what we're going to get is a graph that looks like this, so our quadratic that looks something like that, and our linear equation that looks like that. So they're not actually going to cross because when we've substituted in and used the simultaneous equations, what we've got is something that has no solutions. Remember, if we had a discriminant above 0, they would have crossed over twice, and if it was exactly on 0, they would have touched each other once. Now, if they're not actually going to cross over, then there's no point looking for the points of intersection, because they don't exist. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to find the x-intercepts for each equation, and the y-intercepts for each equation, and then go through and sketch them separately. Now, for our linear equation, we're always going to have our y-intercept at x equals 0, so I've written out the equation here, y equals 4x plus 22, and I've substituted x equals 0 to find my y. So I've got 4 times 0 is 0, plus 22 is 22. So that's going to give us the equation 0, 22. And what I'll do is I'll write that out in my green pen. Notice I've given linear function green, and I'm going to give the quadratic function red. So I'll go to 0, 22, and I'll plot that point, and I'll just write 0, 22, like so. Alright, I'll now find my x-intercept, so I'll make y equal to 0, so I've got y equals 4x plus 22, that's the equation, the linear equation again. And I'll substitute in 0 for y, giving me 0 is equal to 4x plus 22. When I subtract 22 off both sides, I get negative 22 is equal to 4x. Then I divide both sides by 4, I get x is equal to negative 22 on 4, which of course, when it cancels down, gives me negative 11 on 2. So my x is equal to negative 11 on 2, and the coordinate is negative 11 on 2, comma, 0. So let's go through and plot that. Negative 11 on 2 is the same as saying negative 5.5. So go negative 5.5 is right here, and I'll write negative 11 on 2, comma, 0. Okay, so I've now got my 2 points in my linear equation, so I may as well actually just go through and sketch it so we don't get confused. So I've got 2 points there, and I'm just going to draw a straight line going through both like such. Now of course use a ruler, I'm trying my best, but on this tablet it's a little bit harder to do. Now for the quadratic function, what we need to do is find the x and the y-intercepts once again like we did with the linear. So to find the y-intercept I make x equal to 0. As you can see here, I then write out the equation, and I substitute in 0 for x. So I get negative 0 squared plus 0 times 3 plus 18. And of course, 0 squared plus 3 times 0 is 0, plus 18 is 18, so you get the coordinate 0, 18. Let's go through and plot that in red here. So 0, 18 is right here. And we'll write in 0, 18. Next thing to do now is to go through and find the x-intercept. So I've got my x-intercept is at y equals 0. So I've got y equals negative x squared plus 3x plus 18. Substituting y equals 0 now. So I get 0 is equal to negative x squared plus 3x plus 18. And what I'm going to do is start going through and factorising because I've got my two different types of x. I want to find out what x is equal to, so I need to factorise if I've got more than one type of x. So to do that, I take out the negative as a common factor, and you get x squared minus 3x minus 18. Now what I need to do is look for the factors of c, the factors of negative 18 that add to b, negative 3. So I go through and do that. Factors of negative 18, and 1 and negative 18, 2 and negative 9, 3 and negative 6. Now which ones are going to add to negative 3? Well, it's going to be 3 plus negative 6. So I get 0 is equal to x plus 3 and x minus 6 in brackets. Going through and solving now, I get x plus 3, this bracket here is equal to 0, and x minus 6 is equal to 0. So I get x equals negative 3 when I subtract 3 off both sides, and I get x equals 6. So the coordinates at this point are negative 3, 0, because my y is 0, and 6, 0, because my x is 6 and my y is 0. So let's go through and plot those. So negative 3, 0, and 6, 0. And I'll write the coordinates here, 6, 0, and negative 3, 0. Now the other thing I need to do is go through and find my turning point, which I haven't actually shown the working out for here. So I'll be 2 seconds whilst I get that up and running. There we go, and I'm back. So what I've got here is my turning point formula, so negative b over 2a, c minus b squared over 4a. Let's go through and label out a, b and c once again. So a is negative 1, b is equal to 3, and c is equal to 18. So substituting in now, I've got negative b, so negative 3 over 2 times a is being negative 1, c being 18, minus b being 3 squared over 4 times a being negative 1. Now I get negative times 3 is negative 3, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, 18 minus 3 squared is 9, over 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Negatives here cancel each other out, so you get 3 over 2, 18, and the negative negatives becomes plus 9 on 4. Now 9 on 4 is equal to 2 and 1 quarter, so it's going to be 18 plus 2 and 1 quarter is 20 and 1 quarter. So let's go through and plot that now. So 3 over 2 is the same as saying 1 and 1 half, so it's going to be all the way up here, all the way up to 20 and 1 quarter. So that's going to be pretty much right on where I've done my writing here. Good one, Morsey. Alright, so now what I need to do is go through and just join the dots. Come all the way up through here, like so, and then come down like that. And I would write through writing my point here being 3 over 2 and 20 and 1 quarter. And of course what I go through and do now is label each equation. That is y is equal to 4x plus 22, and y is equal to negative x squared plus 3x plus 18. And as you can see here, the graphs don't actually cross over because there's no solutions, which is what we're trying to find before.
Alright guys, thank you very much for tuning into today's lesson, which was all about how to find the points of intersection between quadratic functions and linear functions. Now it was actually the very last lesson for this whole unit. So of course make sure you stay tuned for the very next lesson because we're going to learn all about a brand new unit which is on cubic functions. So like always, say hi to your maths teacher for me. Morsey out.
This has been a Zebra Crossing production.